Hey, this is my recap of the Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 9, Episode 8, Not So Silent Night. So I've really been bumming on this show for a while. I'm catching up on my recaps, and I'm just really frustrated. But I found at the end of this episode I feel a little more excited and my spirits are a bit higher, and I'll explain why at the end. So we start off with Shannon getting ready. She's decorating her house for her Christmas party. Tamara and Ryan go back to see Dr. Lee, the anti-aging specialist, and Tamara's fine. They look at Ryan's blood work, and there's actually quite a few problems with it. His iron is really high, his bad cholesterol is really high, his good cholesterol is really low, and this all these things kind of make him more susceptible to some sort of coronary event or stroke or heart attack or something like that. So, of course, it's just super, super scary. So they're going to take him off, or he's going to go off of everything and come back and be tested again to see what that means. Heather goes into Good Day LA to promote her appearance on Hawaii 5-0, and while she is there, they invite her to be a guest host for one of the hosts that's going to be leaving on maternity leave. Super exciting for her. Like, if anyone wanted me to host anything, I would be over the moon. And this is a huge opportunity. I used to watch that when I lived in California. So that is all awesome stuff. So we go to Shannon's party, and Heather comes in and she's really excited. She sits down with Terry and Eddie and Tamara and says, guess what? They asked me to be guest host and I get to plan some stuff, so I thought we could bring Cut Fitness on. And Eddie's like, hey, that's great, that's really exciting. And she's like, well, do you want to do this and that and the... And she looks at Tamara, and Tamara's like, she's like, Tamara, are you okay? And Tamara is all mad because 6 months ago, I guess Heather was a guest co-host, and they had done all these segments on Heather's life where Heather gets her dresses, where Heather does this, where Heather does that, and where Heather works out. We already established a long time ago that Heather does not work out at Cut Fitness because she lives a long way away. It doesn't have to be that far away, but with traffic in Orange County, there are places I would definitely never go. I would never have my gym someplace I had to go on the freeway, because between 7 and 10 and 3 and 6, you can't go anywhere on the freeways. It'd be faster for her to run to the gym than it would be to take the car. So anyways, but Tamara's really been out of shape, and Heather's like, I wrote you at that time. I texted you. I emailed you. I told you this was going to happen. That was not my choice. I didn't get to pick it. All this stuff. But Tamara's still really mad. Couple of things. So has Tamara been mad about this for 6 months? Is that why Tamara's been kind of nasty to Heather this whole season? I mean, she's this mad about it. It happened 6 months ago. Secondly, I'm sorry. If I have a job and they ask me to do something like this, I would do the exact same thing as Heather. Now, as a friend, I think she maybe owed Tamara not to trash her company, but she doesn't owe Tamara that anytime she has an opportunity to promote Cut Fitness, she has to do it. So that was kind of ridiculous. And Tamara's like, well, some of our trainers also work there, and they had a different story. So the trainers at a rival that work at a rival place had a different story about how Good Day LA does their production. Really? Does that seem very, realistic to you? To me, that sounds like they saw something and they interpreted it and said Heather must have made this decision. It's very likely they said, well, Heather, we really want to do the gym you work at. She's like, well, what about Cut Fitness? And they're like, no, we want to do the gym you work in. We want you to talk to them. So she went in and she's like, hey. She's not going to go in and be like, hey, you were my second choice, but you're the gym I work at. You know what I mean? So I don't, and then I don't care. If Heather had a decision or not in it, I've never seen her lie. I don't think. Well, I guess last week she kind of left out some truths, so we'll see about that. But anyway, Eddie says, I'm over it. I don't care. Thank you, Heather. Let's move on. Vicky and Heather go off to discuss stuff because Vicky's really upset. My cold, dead little heart kind of warms up for Vicky. I was thinking about it, and I'm kind of giving her a hard time about wanting to have her daughter close. But my husband and I moved, and his parents moved a year later to the same place. And So did my parents. So I'm not really one to be throwing stones at Vicky for this particular issue because we live within a few miles of both sets of parents after moving 3 states away. So I should probably keep my mouth shut about that. Everybody else, Danielle, Lizzie, Shannon, of course, Tamra, are all in the other room, and Tamra brings up the situation again. Oh, it's so awful. And of course, Shannon's response is, well, I know Heather, and she's awful, so this is all true. That's my summary. Danielle and Lizzie are trying to kind of figure it out. They just go on and on and on, and somehow this all gets mixed into Shannon's issues. And then Heather comes in, and Lizzie, and no one says anything. And so Lizzie's like, well, we were discussing this, and you guys should talk. And Shannon and Shannon and Tamara are like, oh, she's so awful. Anyway, it all comes up, and Heather's upset. I mean, I understand why Heather's upset. I mean, here she is at this party. She comes into a room. Everyone's been talking about her. They've already discussed it once. Eddie kind of settled the issue, and now they're going at it again. And somehow it all gets connected into Shannon's issues. So here's my thing. Shannon and Heather don't like each other. Fine, they're never going to probably will never like each other unless something radically happens to change that relationship. I don't really have a problem with that. Can Heather be a little snobby and bossy and condescending? Yeah, probably. Can Shannon be a little unhinged and crazy? Yeah, probably. I still like Heather. Shannon, I'm a little bit, but I mean, she doesn't sound like a bad person, but the two of them are just not going to work it out. The real question is Tamara, because Tamara has been good friends with Heather, and now she's turning on her. And that, to me, is like a bigger issue than Shannon not liking Heather. Now, Vicky comes to my rescue in all this, because Vicky summarizes everything I feel about the situation. Heather doesn't owe this to Tamara. It's not really her business. She's not going to get involved. All this stuff, and I'm like, dang it, Vicky. You're making so much sense. I don't want to like you. You've been driving me crazy all season, but now you are like the voice of reason. Like, blows my mind. So, but truthfully, did kind of make me feel a little more excited about the show. I think part of it is that I don't like to see a bunch of people get on one person. We didn't like it with the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I don't like it here, even though Heather's not going through anything similar to what Lisa went through, but I just don't like the feeling of that. So having someone kind of stick up for Heather makes me feel a little bit better. They get a phone call. Heather gets a phone call. Vicky says it was a fake phone call because she didn't see it light up. If you watch the video, you can see it light up. I don't doubt that it's real. But I will say this, I have no doubt that Heather and Terry were thrilled to have a reason to leave the party. I really do believe that. They were like, oh, your stomach hurts, we're coming right home. I'm sure they didn't want their son to be uncomfortable, but I have no doubt that was a great excuse to leave. And I don't think they really owed it to Shannon to stay any longer, especially with Shannon being a pretty awful host. So anyway, I am a little better with this show, and I am almost caught up. See you guys soon.